Thank you so much, and thank you all, VISTA candidates, for joining us on the webinar, Launching Your VISTA Service. Before we get started, I want to review a few things about the WebEx classroom so that you can get the most out of this session. The webinar is being broadcast by phone and online. If you would like to stream audio through your computer, go to the top left of the screen and click the Communicate menu and select Audio Broadcast. If the audio cuts out during the session, go back to the Communicate menu and restart the audio broadcast. Please note that you may get the best audio quality by calling in via phone. If the audio broadcast quality is poor, we recommend you call in by telephone. The phone number listed at the bottom of the slide will help you get to that audio conference. Likewise, when we get to the Q&A portion of the webinar, if you want to ask a question verbally, you'll need to call in. Live captioning of this session is also available in the Media Viewer panel that's at the bottom right corner of the screen. To share an idea or resource or to respond to one of the session activities, use the chat panel to the right of your slide, sending your message to all participants. If you don't see the chat panel, click the speech bubble icon in the upper right corner of the screen, as illustrated on this slide. If you're on a mobile device, the chat option is at the bottom of the participant screen. You can ask a question at any time during the presentation by typing it into the Q&A panel, which is just below the chat panel. We may not be able to answer your questions right away, but we will be monitoring questions as they come in, and we'll queue them up to be answered near the end of the presentation. When we open a poll, the chat and Q&A panels will be collapsed. To expand the panel, just click on the triangle next to the name of the panel. If you're viewing this webinar on a smartphone or tablet, please note that certain features, such as polling, will not be available. We highly recommend that if you're able to, switching to a desktop or laptop computer so that you can fully participate. You can follow along today's session and take notes in the PSO workbook. We've pasted a link to the workbook in the chat panel in case you haven't already downloaded it. Throughout the presentation, you will see workbook page references in the upper right corner of the screen, so that you know where to get additional information in your workbook. We'll begin in just a moment. Hello again, everyone, and officially welcome to AmeriCorps VISTA and the first webinar of your orientation, Launching Your VISTA Service. Here with us we have Ann Oti,
Patrick Triano,
and I'm Jessica Birch, and we'll be your host today from VISTA headquarters in Washington, D.C. Before we fully get started, I do just want to note that some of you may be joining in a group. For those of you who are maybe logged in under one person's name, we need to take attendance to ensure that we show that you have attended this webinar. So, if you were logged in as a group, please type your name in the chat panel of all the people who were in that group with you. If you have logged in as a single user, you do not need to type your name in here. But please put your name in here if you're joined as a group so that we can record everyone's attendance. Now I'm going to turn it over to Ann.
Great. Thank you so much, Jessica. Here is what we hope you will get out of today's webinar. We'd like you to be able to describe the mission of the VISTA program and outline its key programming principles, show how the assignments of individual VISTA members, like you, relate to the VISTA mission, describe what the PSO blend is and participate in it fully, and enter into VISTA service well-informed and ready to serve.
Thanks, Ann. Well, look, before we get started on the session goals, let's first say welcome. So, welcome. Welcome to AmeriCorps VISTA. You're about to join a national movement with a very rich history. There are about 289 VISTA members beginning service with you on this very day, on this very call, as a matter of fact, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And this month there are about 720 VISTAs starting service, with more than 5,000 members serving in rural and urban areas in all 50 states and in several territories and tribal nations. So if you're feeling alone on the other side of this phone, don't. Volunteers in Service to America, which is like TED Talks, no one ever knows what it stands for. VISTA is Volunteers in Service to America, and it's been supporting, at times leading the charge for social equity for more than 50 years. I would like to think that our strength comes from the training, but honestly it comes from you, from the talent, the motivation, and the energy you bring. And so for that, I want to thank each and every one of you for stepping up to share your skills and your passion to serve your community. It's honestly an honor for me to welcome you on behalf of the VISTA program and AmeriCorps. I hope you feel the warmth and support of your fellow VISTAs as well as all of us here in Washington. Throughout this orientation, not just this webinar, we in the training unit will do everything that we can to support your connections to each other. So as we're getting to know one another, let's take a look at a few milestones in VISTA's history that led us to this very webinar. I can't do a President Kennedy impersonation, so I won't. But look, back in 1961, Kennedy established the Peace Corps and rejuvenated from Roosevelt's New Deal back in the 30s the idea of a corps of volunteers with a living allowance and training support. In 1963, Kennedy, in an address to Congress, said, "The overseas success of our Peace Corps volunteers, most of them young men and women carrying skills and ideas to needy people, suggests the merit of a similar corps serving our own community needs. As the idealism of our youth has served world peace, so it can serve the domestic tranquility."
Then we're going to flash forward to 1964. President Johnson, which, Patrick, I think you have a good Johnson.
I do a better Johnson.
That's a better Johnson? All right. Created the Office of Economic Opportunity, and within that office established, among others, Senior Corps, Job Corps, Head Start, and really the true bearer of the legacy, VISTA. Our first volunteers were assigned, as the newspapers read back then, to the hollows of Appalachia, the slums of Hartford, Connecticut, and the camps of migrant farm workers in California. Johnson, whom you can see in this photo, said to those first VISTAs, which remains true today, "The initials of your organization spell VISTA. It is an appropriate name, for you will be opening up new vistas of hope for the poor, achievement for yourself, and greatness for your nation."
Fast forward almost 30 years, and in 1993, VISTA joined AmeriCorps, which was created by President Bill Clinton, and today is part of a family of national service programs, including AmeriCorps State and National Grants, AmeriCorps NCCC, FEMA Corps, and Senior Corps. In the 50-plus years of the VISTA program, some 200,000 VISTAs have served. So who are these alumni, you may be wondering? Well, Jessica and I served as VISTA. Woo! George R.R. Martin, the author of Game of Thrones, served as a VISTA. Senator Jay Rockefeller of West Virginia. Ray Magliacci from Click and Clack of Car Talk. Jake Gertie, the CEO of Land O'Lakes.
Love that butter.
Me too. And Congresswoman Gwen Moore of Wisconsin. These are just a few of our 200,000 VISTA alums. But if you're aiming to be famous because you served in the VISTA program, you may want to rethink that plan.
Thanks for dashing my dream, man.
Sorry.
So that's our whirlwind history. And it should be clear at this point, VISTA has worked for over 50 years to help bring communities out of poverty. So if you believe that we have the responsibility to bring an end to poverty, and if you're committed to working within communities, then you've joined the right program. And based on the responses in our chat activity at the beginning of the session, it looks like your interests and motivation are well aligned with VISTA.
That's right. A lot of people here talked about wanting to understand the complexities that drive people into poverty in the first place.
Yeah.
And to help do my part to help that fight.
It seems pretty clear that everybody understands there is a cycle of poverty out there, and they're out to break it.
A lot of people here also say they like to help others, which, it's like, hopefully everyone kind of feels like they like to help others, but volunteers in service to America, that's what you're going to be doing for a whole year.
Did you see the person who said, I've been with the military for 27 years, and I thought I'd join VISTA. That is a person who loves punishment. Thank you for joining. 27 years, really.
But we thank you for your service, and all of you other veterans out there, and maybe other alumni of AmeriCorps, AmeriCorps CCC, AmeriCorps State National.
Honestly, I'm only joking. It's true.
Let's see. A lot of people here, I also noticed, are using VISTA as a way to gain experience. A lot of people want to learn about the nonprofit sector. A lot of people saying, hey, you know, I want to help just get my foot in the door, which is great. There's nothing wrong with using VISTA's training and our resources that we provide on the VISTA campus to really build yourself up during service.
There's another person who's mid-career just using it as a transition piece, which is, look, wonderful. We need all the help we can get in this fight.
So we were talking about why you're here and what you want to get out of VISTA, but we also probably want you to know, and maybe you're even concerned about why you're needed. Well, you're needed because in each and every one of your communities, a need has been identified that they know that VISTA members can help solve. To get a sense of what that need really looks like, we're going to read out some fast facts. So, first, more than 1 in 5 children in the U.S., which is about 22%, live below the poverty line.
Among all children, 44% live in low-income families, which is about 32.6 million. And 2 in 5 children don't know where their next meal is coming from.
1 in 4 Native Americans and Alaska Natives are living in poverty, which is about 1.35 million. That is the same amount of doctors and graduate students in the United States, just to get an idea. 30% of veterans age 18 to 24 are unemployed, and about 50,000 are homeless on any given night, though that number is coming down thanks to coordinated efforts.
And more than 1 in 100 adults in the U.S. are in jail or prison, and the average age of children with an incarcerated parent is 8 years old.
Now, to be honest, the numbers overwhelm me.
Yeah.
The statistics overwhelm me. But what we want to reflect is that after 50 years, our work is far from done, and we need you. We need you today, and we need you well into the future. Later on in the session, we'll take a look at some of the impacts our fellow VISTA members have had. But right now, let's take a deeper look into the VISTA program's mission and the principles that guide our work. All right. So, when asked to describe VISTA service, our elevator speech, that is VISTA's mission, is that the VISTA program strengthens organizations that alleviate poverty through the mobilization of volunteers and resources. And in addition to our mission, there are 4 principles that underpin the program: ending poverty, empowering communities, building capacity, and creating sustainable solutions. So let's take a look at these 4 principles in a little more detail.
Thanks, Patrick. So that first one, ending poverty. Every VISTA project and every VISTA member aims to end or alleviate poverty, whether it's one person, one family, or one block at a time. Now, as you can see, and as we said just earlier, the statistics are sobering, if not shocking. I think on this page, the one that shocked me the most is 4 out of 5. That's 79% of people people in the U.S. live in danger of poverty. Like, that's shocking to me. Like, the majority of the country is in danger of poverty. That shocks me every time.
And a greater number, when we take a closer look at poverty, all of us at some point in our lives go below the poverty line. So it's not a static thing. Yeah. You're not safe and sound, and it's not a place that we won't all visit at some point in our lives, right? Yeah.
Next principle, empower communities. So in contrast to parachuting in and doing good things for people, VISTA members actually live among and involve community members in planning and carrying out the project. This is often facilitated by your sponsor, but strengthening and improving the community is our long-term goal through learning about values and beliefs, assumptions, community development principles, and principles of good practice.
You know, if you could just go back to that slide for a second, that person, you know, parachuting into the community with money, that is what we don't do. It may not be perfectly clear on that slide, so let's make that clear. That's not empowering a community. It might be nice to have the money, but it's not empowering the community. Thank you. All right. Building capacity. The task of a VISTA member in the VISTA program as a whole is to either increase the size of a project or increase the number of people who are touched by the project, or improve the efficiency of the project so that it takes less to perform the same work. Or the fourth aspect of building capacity is to improve the impact the project has on the community. And by saying that, I mean digging deeper into the community to alleviate poverty. So the image on the screen depicts the grounded principles of community organization in the center, surrounded by self-determination, fairness, justice, empowerment, and participation. Employ those principles and we're working towards building capacity, both for the organization as well as the community. That's a mouthful.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
But they got it. I know this group is sharp, Patrick.
I hope so.
They've got it. I know they do.
So.
And last but not least, creating sustainable solutions. Whatever you develop or create, be it a process, an IT system, materials and resources, we ask that you develop them in such a way that people will want and be able to use them once you're gone, even after the last VISTA member leaves your site. It is important to try and bridge the social, environmental, and economic factors together to create favorable, equitable, viable, and sustainable solutions.
So these four principles guide community development for us. Community work requires coordination, even collaboration, and working together towards long-range goals. My mom likes to tell me you can't be an island, and that's very true in VISTA's work. You all need to work with each other, work with other organizations, and that's really what's a key part of being a VISTA member. As you think about the principles that we just covered, which one resonates with you? Why does it resonate? So let us know in the chat which one of the key principles resonates with you and why. Maybe it's ending poverty. In the chat, a lot of you said you wanted to help bring people out of poverty in your community, so maybe that's what's really a driving factor for you. Or maybe it's empowering your community. Maybe that's a passion of you working with, I should say, community stakeholders to identify those needs, and then putting those needs into action with the help and support of the community.
Come on, capacity building is at the heart of what we're doing here. That's
you want to go here, Patrick?
Maybe, hey, I just want to put that out there. Increase effectiveness, engage more individuals.
Or maybe it's sustainability.
Oh man, here comes Anne with this now.
Something that drew you to the VISTA position. Maybe you have an eye for processes and developing them in such a way that can be used once you're gone. Something that'll last forever.
Like diamonds are forever.
Like diamonds are forever.
So let's see what you all are saying in the chat. A lot of empowering communities.
Yeah.
Help them, give them the tools they need.
I see.
Hold on, let me get there.
Solutions.
Ending poverty, okay. Solutions, empowering communities, okay, good. Empowering communities, really?
I know.
Sustainable solutions and empowering communities. Oh, good people.
I like Krista. She just is like all four. I like it. And let's see here. Catherine says sustainability most resonates with me because I feel like that social and economic aspects get overlooked when we look at sustainability through a green or environmental only lens. It's true. We only usually hear about sustainability when it comes to, you know,
Go green.
Exactly, which is great, but there's other ways to do that.
You know, I shouldn't argue with my fellow trainers or any of you on the line, but when I look at empowering communities, in large part, we empower communities through capacity building, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. The thing about the VISTA program, though, I will say, is the capacity building that we do through the assignment descriptions is often the capacities of the organizations in which we serve.
Right.
Very true.
And so there's a separation between empowering communities and capacity building.
And I do have to say, Patrick, Wilson here has a good thought to counter your thought here. Wilson here says, empowering communities resonates with me because I believe being aware of and confident in one's own agency is essential to meeting the other principles, ending poverty, building capacity, and creating sustainable solutions in the medium and long term.
Okay.
Let's just make clear, there's no right or wrong answer, but I love that, Wilson.
Yeah.
But a lot of you, there's, you know, no matter what, there's no right answer here. All of you have been signing up for VISTA, joined us here on this webinar, and are starting at your project today for one of these reasons, and if not more. So keep them coming. We love to hear them.
Yeah, I like this one, too. Ending poverty because the specter of poverty and the fears it brings about tomorrow loom over all of us, which, yeah, I'm with you. All right, so look, no matter which principle you have the strongest connection to, your work as a VISTA member will address all 4 of the principles during your VISTA service year. Progress in this type of work is pretty slow and incremental. And it's important to know that our work isn't just about fixing stuff. It's about sharing perspectives and skills. The results of your work as a VISTA member may not be apparent immediately, and it's not going to happen overnight, which at times can be pretty frustrating. But once you step back, you'll be able to see the larger changes that have resulted in your work after a year or maybe 2 of VISTA service. Right?
That's true. I went to visit my VISTA project a couple of weeks ago. I helped in building a community garden, and they were able to use it for real this past summer. So it was cool to see. Even though when I was there, there was nothing in the ground, but this year they had a very successful harvest. So yeah, it might not happen when you end service, but it'll be there eventually.
That's great.
That's pretty cool, Ann.
So a key component that Patrick briefly mentioned that informs the work you will be doing is the VISTA assignment description, also known as your VAD. But how is your VAD developed? That's a great question. When a project wants to request VISTA resources, they submit a personal or a project application. The application is developed between your sponsor, community representative, and VISTA program representative. In the application, the project describes the poverty-related need in the community, which relates to the VISTA's mission, and outlines how VISTA resources, aka you, the VISTA members, would address this need through activities and other outputs. The poverty-related mission of VISTA and the needs identified by the community to come together, they come together to create the project goal. Projects are typically 3 years, and you may be the first, second, or last VISTA at your project. And from the project goal, your VAD is created. We and your sponsor use the VAD to account for your work and measure the organization's progress towards its goals. And like a work plan, it's also important to your supervisor to recruit, support, and coach you throughout the year. So we recommend that you ask your supervisor for a copy of the project application. This will allow you to get a deeper look at what the community identified as its needs and hopes, and to better understand your VAD in the context of the overall project goal.
So what exactly should a VAD include, and what does it mean? Okay, so all VADs include the following 3 elements. A project goal, which, as we said in the previous slide, is usually derived from the goal statement of the project's application. It's the purpose. What is the project about? It should reflect the poverty mission of the project, as well as the activities that clearly show how you, the VISTA member, will build capacity at the organization or in the community. The second are the objectives, which describes what you will achieve by the end of your service year. So the project goal obviously spans a minimum of 3 years. The objectives are yearly. And the objectives essentially form a bridge between the goal and your activities. The member activities are exactly what they sound like. They delineate specifically what you'll be doing. They're designed to add up to the objective and the objectives to the goal. By accomplishing the activities in your VAD, you help meet your organization's performance objectives on a yearly basis, which contributes to meeting the community need. So each of you has your own VAD, no matter how many of you may be serving at the same project at the same time. As Ann said earlier, you may be the first, the second, or the third VISTA member in as many years to serve at your organization. Or you may be the only member at your site, and you may be, or you may be serving with other VISTAs. Okay, we got that picture. In either case, the application and your VAD are your blueprints. So we'll focus on them in the next week or so, either directly or by guiding you as you're oriented to your site and your project. There are fieldwork assignments related to your VAD throughout this blended training. The worksheet will help you tease out the VAD's various elements and also help you use it effectively as you work throughout the year. The fieldwork also includes your supervisor. So you'll have guidance from the very start on your opening conversation with your supervisor about your work. And remember to make your VAD work for you, right? It was developed without actually knowing exactly who you are and what skills and interests you bring. Now, as you and your supervisor get to know one another, you can adjust it to play to your strengths, your skills, and your experience.
That's right, Patrick. And as we said, just to pass these slides here, the VAD accounts for your service during the year. So what on earth do VISTA members do during their service year? We want to show you what VISTA, your fellow VISTAs have accomplished recently. So you'll get a sense of what you might be doing. And these are measurable, which they're not the intangibles, which are often more interesting, but they're still pretty cool. So in 2016, VISTAs, that's you, VISTA members, raised $178 million in cash and in-kind donations for your sponsoring organization. That's more than twice what Congress has given AmeriCorps VISTA to run the entire program.
Right.
That's whoa. Whoa. We recruited, trained, and assigned 900,000 community volunteers who served 11 million hours. That means every VISTA serving in 2016, which, Ann, I think you were one of those, right?
A little bit of 2016.
A little bit of 2016, on average, brought in another 117 volunteers to serve their clients directly.
The National Center for Children in Poverty estimates 16 million children in the United States, about 1 in 5, live below the poverty line. VISTA members made it possible for their sponsors to serve 3 million of those children in after-school programs, tutoring, and assistance in food security.
And then programs supported by VISTA members served 188,000 veterans and military families. And I saw in the chat we have quite a few members actually focused on that.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
And then last year, more than 8,000 VISTA members built the capacity of more than 3,000 nonprofits and public agencies. And about 70 of those were in their own hometowns. And since 1965, more than 220,000 VISTAs have served.
Now these numbers, they all have a buzz effect to me. I can't quite hear it anymore, I gotta be honest. But recap, we more than double the amount of money that's given to us.
Yeah, to run the whole program.
For every person serving, we bring in almost 120 people more from the community to serve.
Yep.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And, well, we're working in about 3,000 nonprofits right now per year.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, that's pretty amazing. And, I mean, this is 2016. You guys are 2017, 2018 class. You know, I think you guys can beat it. I look forward to, you know, seeing what numbers 2017, 2018 get us.
And if everybody's wondering why are we talking about 2016, because it takes us, we haven't yet gotten all of the data.
Right.
As a matter of fact, we were just talking about it this morning. So it takes a little bit of while to get that data and then to analyze it. So sorry that you're getting sort of old data, but hang in there.
But so we told you what other VISTAs have done, but now we want to know, if you succeed in your service, what will happen in your community? So the impact that you make this year depends on you. And it also depends on your community, your VISTA project, and quite frankly, on some good luck. As you think about this question, type your answer in the chat so that everyone will learn and know what impact you hope to make as a VISTA member. And by impact, what we mean is what will be the end result, rather than what your activities will look like. What's the final goal that you'll see? And what will happen as a consequence of your success?
Wait, now what are you asking for? The impact after a year of service?
Yes.
Or after a year of service?
Yes.
What will they be able to feel and see and know that they've done?
Yeah, like what is a successful year? You come a year from now, your last day of service, what does success, what would make you feel I had a successful year? What will that look like?
Gotcha.
And so, for example, because that's a very broad question, a sustainable volunteer program for the organization, maybe that's what success looks like. Or maybe a coalition of community groups working together more effectively as a result of your efforts.
God, you are such a wonk. A coalition of community groups working together to more effectively as a result of your effort.
Yeah. God,
I love you.
Wonk away.
Wonk. Wonk.
So we have some other wonks coming in here. All right. Some great things.
We do, don't we? Look at them.
Let's see, a higher interest in college enrollment.
Yes.
The final goal is to empower youth to stay involved in school and to better their education experience.
Does everybody see the composting and gardening? There's a person after your own heart.
Ooh.
Let's take a look here, and let's see.
Aiding residents in the community with the opportunity and employment. Yeah, now there's an anti-poverty.
Low-income citizens in Pueblo will have better and more readily available access to resources for mental health issues. That's wonderful, Madison. State of Colorado, we just did a webinar on mental health.
Is that what you said, in the Pueblo?
In Pueblo.
In Pueblo.
That's awesome. Increase knowledge to children throughout our community.
Yay. Underprivileged youth will have service and leadership experience. Yay.
Successful year would bring more attention and services to mental health. Wonderful. Military members, veterans, and university students, faculty, and staff will be, let's see, my computer wants to wig out on me.
Yeah, it keeps wigging out on me, too. Because I saw one about eating better. I want to see that one.
We'll be supported by CCB LLR, and we'll be able to utilize their skills and passions to support disaster response efforts.
More gainful employment.
Saw one that just moved away, but it was about bringing more resources to individuals who are coming out of prison.
Yeah. Here it is, eating local and being food safe. I'm going to take food safe as food security or the safety of food. We'll find out later.
I think both are good. I want safe food and I want
back to me.
Food access to
yes.
safe.
Food security meaning that you know where your meal is coming tonight, right? Yeah.
But I mean, I also want to know that what I'm eating is safe to eat.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what I care about.
It's always good.
Holly here says victims of domestic violence and sexual assault will be more effectively supported as they seek safe housing and care for their traumatic past.
Yep.
These are wonderful successes.
I'm seeing a lot of education out there, by the way. A lot of youth with work work with youth and college enrollment, finishing school, that sort of thing. Great stuff.
I'm happy you didn't say youth with work, because then I don't know if you're getting into child labor, and I don't want any VISTA to
just settle
know
down.
that.
Settle down, Bert. Settle down. All right, shall we move on?
Yeah.
Who goes? Is it
you, Patrick. You get to do your favorite poll.
It is. Finally, I get to do something really fun. Okay, here's the poll question. We'd like to hear that, well, look, what do you think is the most important to know at the beginning of service, right? Is it you need to know the VISTA program, you need to know the community, you need to know the organization, the specific skills of your VAD, or you need to know yourself, all right? So on the right of your screen is a poll. So you've got a few minutes. Select your answer, and remember, if you're on a smartphone or tablet and unable to complete the poll, it's not a problem. You can call Jessica and give her your answer later.
Wonderful.
Yeah, thought you'd appreciate that. And what happens? So do I wait like a minute?
Yeah.
And then I can look?
Yeah, I do just want to, as you think about this question, what is the most important thing, you'll probably see our colleague here, Eric Powell, in the chat. He says, we'll give you about a minute to complete the poll. Eric is helping us in the chat answer your question. So is our colleague Calvin Landrum and Indy and Scott from Education Northwest. Wonderful people. So fill out this poll because we want to know. Anne, what do you think is the most important thing?
I think it's going to be a tie.
Okay.
You do?
Yeah, I think it's going to be the community and yourself.
Community and yourself.
You do, huh? Oh, here are the answers.
Oh,
look at you. You saw the answers first.
Into the future.
So wait a minute. Well, actually, it's a tie between people not answering. No, it's not true. So you're right, the community and yourself. And what's your answer, Ms. Jessica Birch?
I was probably going to say yourself.
You would?
Yeah.
Why?
Because you got to know yourself. Like, why, anything. I think you just have to know yourself in order to be successful at something. I have to know if I like the kind of work I'm going to go into or the things that I'm going to do if I have a passion about it or the skills. I need to know that before I sign up for something.
Right.
What about you?
Well, I'll tell you later. What do you think?
Well, I thought it was going to be the community and yourself.
You did. And why the community?
Well, for me, I was serving in a community that I wasn't from, so it was important that I knew kind of the structure of the community was, what their values were, so that I wasn't coming in on my parachute. I could, really get in there and know what the community wanted and needed.
Yeah. So here's my answer, and I'll tell you why I based it. So I used to do cross-cultural training, right? Language, behaviors in other cultures, mostly international work. And so they went to all these experts and they said, what's the most important thing to know about crossing a culture? And the answer was yourself, because you're going to react, you're going to be attracted, you're going to be repulsed, and if you don't know what your triggers are, if you don't know what your loves and your hates are, you're not going to be able to determine what's going on here. Why am I responding this way? Why am I having such a challenge, breaking through this wall? So that's why I personally think the answer is yourself. And then the second answer is community. All right, there we go.
So let's do a quick review here. Before we move on, we're going to talk about what we just covered. So first, we looked briefly at the history of VISTA, our program, how it relates to other national service programs. We then dove into our mission and its key principles, and Patrick and Ann discussed how they relate to your VISTA assignment description. And then finally, we shared with you some of the impact, and we got to see some of the things you hope to impact your communities with by what you're going to do. So now we're going to switch gears, and we're going to talk about what is this PSO blend thing. Ann, you want to tell them what it is?
Sure. So PSO blend. Hopefully I can give you guys some specific details to help you learn and succeed. VISTA's pre-service orientation, or PSO, like any orientation, is designed to provide you with fundamental information and resources to start you off well. And you are in an orientation whose 3-week curriculum combines online tutorials and webinars with in-person training and action learning at your VISTA site. In other words, this is a blend of components that fall along that training spectrum. Technically, the PSO blend began with those self-directed courses you took earlier on the VISTA campus, and this webinar is the kickoff to a facilitated 3-week curriculum. The PSO blend is a classroom without walls, action learning rather than classroom learning. And instead of front-loaded learning programs, the PSO blend gives you an opportunity to apply what you're learning while you're doing it. Like service learning, our aim is to create time for you to reflect on what you're doing.
Now, Anne, I often get the evaluations of the PSO blend. And to be honest, asking people to pause in the middle of work, in the middle of training in the middle of work, drives folks crazy, right? Why? First of all, there isn't that time out of time. They're smack dab in the middle of work, and we're asking them, please take a moment, review this, and then reflect on it. It's not easy. And it's honestly one of the challenges of this curriculum. I swear, though, you'll be a bigger, better person for it if you can find the energy and the strength to actually take a breath in the middle of the whirlwind that you're in right now. So I know you're probably texting, snacking, and half listening even as we're doing this webinar. But taking a little time to focus and reflect, it's a good thing. It's a good practice, not only for the blend, but for the rest of your life.
It's true. And on the positive side, you're already at your site and you can bring real issues to your training. You can also go to your supervisor and get project-level information and answers in real time.
And when you get frustrated and you write, you know, how much you're hating the experience, write to Jessica or to Anne.
They all have my email, Patrick, so I'll hear it all. So your role, what is your role in PSO Blend? Your role is pretty simple, but it's not necessarily easy. So we want you to participate with an open mind and an open heart. Navigating the system and showing up is step one. Woohoo! You did step one. You're here. You also need to be authentic, communicating with the intent of being influenced as well as supportive. That's really the second step. And like we said before, patience and reflection is not one of our cultural strong points, but they're essential to your success in Blend and really in the rest of your service. So please take the time to learn about your assignments, which we call the VAD, and plan your next steps. Draw on the facilitators in this Blend and on your classmates, your peers, and in addition to your supervisor and your colleagues at your site.
Yeah, you know, I was just reading Eric's note in the chat. Thank you, Eric. It says, you know, look, along with being mindful and planful in the next few weeks, if not for the rest of your life, for the next few weeks, please meet the deadlines, right? The assignments, the deadlines, and the sessions are outlined in the Guide to Entering VISTA Service that you received a little bit earlier prior to starting today. And it's also in the outline of the online classroom. So we'll review them in a second, and we recommend that you mark them on a calendar and set a reminder for yourself just to meet the deadlines. Do your best. We wouldn't be offering you this work if we didn't think it was valuable. We're not going to hound you like grammar school, but we are asking at least give it a chance. Yeah, that's what I have to say. Is there anything else I need to say about that, Jessica?
I don't think so. Right? Yeah, I think that's it. Just one other quick note is that onboarding forms and coursework, everything needs to be done by close of business today.
Right.
If you're missing something, you received it from me today. You received an email from me, and I know it made your day. So it all should be done by now, but if not, you have until 11:59 p.m. to complete it tonight.
That's all the stuff that was in the portal plus the terms and conditions,
yeah,
right?
So like direct deposit, terms and conditions,
right.
all of that. If you don't do it, we literally cannot start you in service. We can't get you paid. You can't have any of your benefits start. Please help us help you by getting all that work done.
People, just do it.
Do it. Okay. So now that you know what PSO Blend is and what's expected of you, let's take a look at the calendar so you can see kind of what's coming up. There will be a lot of information consolidated on the screen with the calendar, so we encourage you to open the Guide to Entering VISTA Service that you were emailed so that you can get a closer look at that. So last week you completed your onboarding forms and coursework on myAmericorps.gov and on the VISTA campus. We built the curriculum based on having you carefully review those tutorials. We have no desire to waste your time reviewing for you what we asked you to review on your own. We don't want any of you to be thrown out of the program, however, because you didn't understand the rules. Or that next April you're not able to pay your state income taxes because you didn't understand the tax implications of your benefits. So what does that mean? That means we're going to hold you responsible for having read and accepted the terms and conditions of service, that you've reviewed your benefits. If there are aspects of your service you don't understand, the next few days is the time to raise those questions, either with your supervisor about an issue with your project or your assignment, or the National Service Hotline and the VISTA Member Support Unit about policy and your benefits. With that being said, on Wednesday of this week, we are going to take time to tackle some of the more complicated issues around your benefits, such as your living allowance or health care and the educational one. We're going to do this very briefly, and then we will point you to the follow-up webinars and resources in our regular professional development series so that you can get everything you need.
So today marks the beginning of the first week of your PSO Blend and the first day of service. And look, here we are right there on that webinar. Towards the end of this webinar, we'll administer the oath of service, and that'll be your official entrance into VISTA. I hope you've been given the oath of service form by your supervisor today to sign and return. If you haven't, Andy posted a link in the chat, and we'll probably do it again in a little bit, where you can find the oath and you can print it out. Your supervisor is also going to give you 2 fingerprint cards with instructions of how to fill out the card. So the oath at the end of this webinar needs to be signed and returned today, and we'll give very specific instructions on how to do that later on in the webinar. The fingerprints need to be completed and returned no later than, and of course preferably before, the due date that's indicated on your PSO calendar.
The 27th of December.
That's what I needed to know, the 27th of December. So, and remember, fingerprints, we need them to conduct the criminal history background check. And we do that to make sure that all of you are safe and sound, and the people that you're serving are safe and sound.
Like Jessica mentioned, on Wednesday, November 29th, we're going to come back together for your second required webinar, Navigating Your Year of Service. There's a space in your workbook on page 6 to note the dates of key elements of your PSO. Also during this week, your supervisor will begin to provide you with an on-site orientation and training. That training will introduce you to the organization and the community you're serving and discuss your VISTA assignment, essentially your job description. And while the due date for your first fieldwork assignment isn't until December 3rd, Sunday, December 3rd, you will need to start these assignments prior to Sunday in order to ensure that all elements are completed. And you probably want to start the assignments today because you will need some assistance from your supervisor. The assignments due on Sunday are the comprehension check quiz, which tests your knowledge on what you've learned in your pre-work and on this webinar. The minute intro. This activity guides you in creating a very short video to introduce yourself and your VISTA role to others. The VISTA assignment worksheet. This worksheet helps you unpack your VISTA assignment description so you can better understand your role and how poverty is measured. This fun video explains how the official poverty rate is determined.
Can I just say how poverty is measured is one of my favorite pieces. So folks, tune in and tell me if it is not your favorite piece. You want me to talk about the VAD worksheet?
Yes, please.
Yeah, okay. So we want to take a minute just to discuss that worksheet assignment. The VADs, as we said, is your roadmap. How many similes have we used? Let me see. It's a roadmap. It's a blueprint. It's your work plan. It's a roadmap to your VISTA year. Also, identifying how your project's goal and your VAD objectives and activities line up to the overall goal is pretty important to your success. So we recommend that you download the VAD worksheet and work with your supervisor to complete it.
Your second week of PSO Blend starts with the submission of the assignments that we just discussed. On Wednesday of your second week, you'll also have your first virtual meetup. Virtual meetups are made of about 30 of you and a facilitator. So you will be in a smaller and closer-knit setting than on this webinar. You'll explore what you're learning about at your organization and your community and take a close look at your VISTA assignment and the VISTA assignment worksheet that you completed. In addition to the meetup, you'll develop a community profile, which is a fascinating process, if I do say so myself, that you can use to guide your work throughout service. You're also going to take the 13 lessons about poverty as a way to integrate you into the heart of VISTA, which is poverty, as we've discussed here, and that is due on December 10th.
So I probably shouldn't say these are my two favorite assignments, but I'm going to say they are my two favorite assignments. And look, popular demand, they all say incredibly useful. Okay, then finally, third week, no, yes, third week. PSO, it starts with the submission of the assignments that we just talked about, 13 lessons and the community profile. Okay, so in week 3, you gather and you reconnect with your online classmates in a virtual meetup. Then on Friday, December 15th, you'll submit your final field work. And that pertains to your on-site orientation and training, which is provided by your supervisor. Look, the guidance for the on-site orientation and training is really assuming that the vast majority of people starting in VISTA are also having their first in-depth work experience. So what we wanted to do was give some guidance on what we believed would be valuable for you to know and to learn through your orientation and training, because it is most likely the first one you received at work. So that's what we're trying to do there. You'll want to save all of the work and later reference the information that you get throughout the blend, because we believe it's going to come in handy for about the next 3 months until you're fully settled into your community. And then, believe it or not, you are finished with the PSO blend.
Woohoo!
Woohoo!
So on a technical level, which can be challenging, we are using 3 systems or platforms to conduct the PSO blend. The campus, which you used for the online tutorials, vistacampus.gov, WebEx, which you're in now for the live webinars, and the online classroom, vistaclassroom.educationnorthwest.org, which you'll visit later. The technology isn't necessarily hard, but we want you to be aware that there are 3 systems and each one has its own web address.
Yeah, it does get confusing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as we mentioned, you're going to be part of a small group of VISTA members in a facilitated online classroom. You'll submit your fieldwork assignments and join your virtual meetups in the online classroom. The online class is a learning environment with the opportunity to share and develop your ideas and experience with a facilitator in a small group through regularly scheduled virtual meetups and class forums. Right? So developing a connection with the VISTA community is a challenge in a virtual environment. And connecting and feeling supported by people involved in the work like yourself demands a little bit more of you when communicating from a distance. So the classroom with its meetups and its forums enables you to continually reach out to your fellow VISTA members to share ideas and resources, as well as ask questions and simply support each other throughout the experience.
That's right. And one thing I do want to just mention is that you're broken out in your classroom, for the most part, people that are near you. So I know there's a lot of people here from Texas. You are all in one classroom. So there may be people even in your own town in those classrooms.
Right.
For some of you, I think maybe North Dakota or South Dakota, there's only one of you on here. So I'm so sorry that there's not more North Dakotans or South Dakotans on this webinar. But you can connect with people in your area if they're in your classroom. I also just want to give you a heads up that you're going to start receiving emails from your online classroom. In fact, it's going to be a lot of emails. You'll get a burst of messages as you, your classmates, and your facilitator start posting to the discussion forums. Start submitting your assignments and commenting on each other's work. Please, 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 please don't block these messages.
They're going to block the messages.
Patrick, there will be important reminders in there about your fieldwork and due dates, and these emails can be helpful reminders for you to submit your assignments and build community with other VISTA members.
Yeah, but really, please, stick with us. PSO Blend will be over in a few weeks, and at that point, the emails will stop. And we're going on about this because the process does take 3 weeks. In total, we figure about 13 hours, but it's parsed out over 3 weeks. So hang in with us. It's worthwhile, and it's fun.
If you need to get or simply want support during your PSO Blend, please email vistacourses@educationnorthwest.org if you have any trouble logging into your online classroom. You can also send other technical questions pertaining to the online classroom to this address, or better yet, once you've logged into your online classroom, post to the Technical Questions Forum. That way, if the question is one that your classmates also have, they'll be able to see the answer as well. You should reach out to your facilitator for help with the PSO Blend curriculum, and you can contact your supervisor and VISTA leader, if you have one, for questions about your project or VED. Call the National Service Hotline for questions about the VISTA program, policies, benefits, or requirements, and communicate with your state office if none of these help.
There are a few immediate steps that you will need to take right after this session, as they affect your benefits and might prevent us from entering you into service. I've mentioned them before, but because they are so important, I am mentioning them again. Please complete any missing onboarding forms. Don't giggle at me.
It's such a nudge.
I know. I have a wonk and a nudge today. As we said, everything you should already be completed, but if you have something that's incomplete, please complete it by 11:59 p.m. tonight. If they're not completed, we can't activate your service, we can't pay you, you don't get any benefits, and I'll give you Patrick's phone number so you can talk to him when you don't get those. Also, we're going to talk quickly about the Education Award and the End of Service Stipend. If you are unsure of what you want, whether that's the Education Award or the stipend, we highly recommend that you select the Education Award now. The reason for this is because your education award can be changed from the education award to the stipend up until your 10th month of service. So if you, 6 months into service, you say, no, I don't want to go back to school, I'd rather just have the cash, you can make that change. But if you choose the cash stipend now, you'll never have the ability to change. You'll have to stick with the stipend, you can never go to the education award.
Once chosen, forever frozen.
There we go, I like it, that's an Eric kind of thing there. Chosen, forever frozen. So please, if you're unsure of what you want, we highly suggest choosing the education award, and if you need to make that change, do that by tonight, because after tonight, it's locked in, or frozen, unable to be chosen, or whatever Patrick said. And finally, I'm going to turn it over to Ann here in just a second. Get your fingerprint kit from your VISTA supervisor, and get them done this week. Exactly. Your supervisor should have your fingerprint kit. If they don't, they should contact your state office. And Ann's going to talk a little bit more about fingerprinting.
Yes. So like Patrick and Jessica both mentioned, your supervisor should have fingerprint cards for you. Each person gets 2 fingerprinting cards and instructions. If you haven't already received these items, you need to talk with them to get the packet of information. You are responsible for getting fingerprinted and submitting your fingerprints to VISTA headquarters. The cost of fingerprinting varies, and the VISTA program is providing you with a $25 fingerprinting subsidy included in your first living allowance payment. You don't need to submit receipts to receive the subsidy. Also, you as a VISTA member should not have to pay for postage to return the fingerprints, as you should either be provided a return UPS envelope, or your supervisor or sponsor organization may be able to pay to ship them to VISTA headquarters. Please, 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 please get fingerprinted as soon as possible. It may take some time to find a fingerprinting location and get them done, so we suggest that you plan to get your fingerprints done during your first week of service. You may need to ask your supervisor or do some research to find out where you can get your hard copy fingerprints taken. The deadline for you to submit your fingerprints based on your PSO start date of today is listed on the screen and is Wednesday, December 27th. Failure to submit your fingerprints within this time frame could result in termination from service, so don't let that happen.
You know, I never noticed. We beg a lot in this. We certainly beg a lot. So we begged them to take the blood. Now we're begging them to send in their fingerprints. So why? Why do we need your fingerprints, you may ask yourself? Well, it really is because we deal with vulnerable populations, so we need to be able to ensure the communities that you're working in that you're all good people. So there are 2 convictions, not arrests, right? There are 2 convictions that will automatically disqualify a person from service, and I'm not going to beg about this. Any sexual offense and any violence against a minor will, as I say, non-negotiably automatically disqualify you from service, all right? There are 2 other conditions, that don't necessarily disqualify you, but will very well be an issue. One is if you're on probation or parole, or you're currently facing charges. And the other is that you failed to disclose your criminal history. All right? So first, please get fingerprinted. Second, when you applied, you'll remember that we had asked if you had ever been convicted of a crime. And you may not have disclosed everything. Why? Because you thought you only needed to disclose 10 years back, or because you saw the DUI as a minor traffic violation, or that you were a minor and they promised it would be expunged, right? If you failed to disclose any conviction, even though you thought it would be expunged in your application, then fill out the criminal history questionnaire that's included with the fingerprint cards and send it in as instructed. So if you have a string of arrests where the charges were dropped, it'd be really useful if you listed those as well, but it's not required. It is not required. It's just helpful in our review. when the FBI report comes back, and when they come back, they give us everything. The expunged pieces, everything. We'll compare it to your disclosures in the application and on that questionnaire that's in the kit. If everything aligns up, then you're not going to hear from us. If there's a conviction that you haven't disclosed and is ground for dismissal, then we'll follow up, probably pretty extensively. That's the criminal history story.
So now we get to the really fun stuff, which is your oath of service, which officially makes you a VISTA member, which officially kicks you off your service, and it's one of the most fun pieces. So let's discuss it. So to do this, to do the oath, you're going to need to have the oath form. So we just posted the link in the chat. Your supervisor should have given this to you, but if they haven't, just print off the link that's in the chat. And I do have a few instructions for you for filling out this form. They may seem obvious, but you'd be surprised of the things that we have received. So first, print your full legal name. It should be what you used in your my.americorps.gov application. If you go by Perpetually Happy Patrick, please don't put that in there.
No, but Eric would go by that.
That's true. He would legally change his name to that. The next, your name of your project sponsor. So Keystone Food Bank is an example. We're going to see, let me see if we can get the instructions to come up here. There it is. All right.
So it says Victor Vista, which I think is awfully gender biased or exclusive, but I'll let it go.
It can be short for Victoria.
Okay. If it is, then okay. A little fluidity here is good.
And then we have Keystone Food Bank, so just write your project sponsor.
Right.
Then the service city location, Sunnydale, California. If you are a Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan, you'll appreciate that. Then the date of your first day of service, which is today's date, 11/27/2017. Today's date. And then last but not least, who is going to swear you in? Who is it? It's Patrick Triano.
Okay, there we go.
So write that in there, but don't do anything else. Fill out that information, but don't fill out anything else. We're going to give you a few more instructions about the oath. And to do that, Patrick is going to take it away.
Am I?
Yes, you are.
I get to do it now?
You do. You get to give them kind of the logistics about the oath, what it means when we say all this.
Well, I love this oath, by the way. I don't think you should take this oath or any other oath, frankly, but I don't think you should take the oath of service lightly, and for that reason, I would like to talk about it just a little bit. Right? So one phrase that I think is important to focus on is to defend the Constitution of the United States. Right? So by defend, this is not necessarily a call to arms. Okay, so for some, in some positions, it may be and it has been. But for most of us, especially those of us as VISTAs at this moment, defense of the Constitution may be just the opposite of bearing arms. The Constitution is not an administration. It's not even a flag. Remember, it embodies the principles that elevates us from a loosely organized group on the North American continent to a civil society. So we're pledging to defend the document that contains our civil rights. It also says, against all enemies. Let us all please, as community builders, as change agents, and simply as citizens of the United States, choose our enemies very carefully. More often, an enemy is just a reflection of ourselves in bad light. So build bridges before you make enemies, and we'll all profit. And in context of VISTA, of course, the enemy, it's probably the principle of poverty. Okay, two more things about the oath. First, you can replace the word swear with the word affirm if you so choose. You may also omit the phrase, so help me God. All right. Now, look, I want to recognize that we're all in different locations around the country and scattered in so many sites and in so many states that we don't have the benefit of hearing each other's voice as we recite this. But it's pretty cool to know that you're taking the oath. Scores of your fellow VISTAs doing the same thing at the same time across the United States. So it may seem awkward to recite the oath aloud when you're alone in the room, but you really are taking the oath for yourself. So do it for yourself and please make that count. So if you would be so kind, please raise your right hand and recite the oath after me. I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. That I take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion. And that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which I am about to enter. So help me God.
Woo-hoo-hoo! You are a VISTA member now.
How lovely.
Yay.
How lovely.
You are now officially a VISTA member. Please, you, the VISTA member, sign and date the form on the line in the white area only. Do not write anything in the shaded area. Then, hand it to your supervisor, as your supervisor will also need to sign the form where it says witness to confirm that you took the oath and that it was administered by a CNCS official, Patrick Triano.
Yeah, can I say that once again? So because no one else except, but your supervisor can act as the witness, you need my name to reflect that it's been administered by an employee of the federal government.
Mm-hmm. And then once your supervisor has signed it, please scan a copy of your oath. You're going to email the scanned copy of the oath, not a photograph, as an attachment to the VISTA Member Support Unit at vmsu@cns.gov. Again, it's vmsu@cns.gov. Use the subject line, oath, first name, last name, that's your first name and last name, PSO blend 11/27/2017. So we know that we went over this already, but after a reminder and to ensure that everything is correct and we can get you entered into our system so that you can be paid as soon as possible, we'll go over it one more time.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised how many people miss some of these critical details, which causes delays in paying out your living allowance and activating your benefits. So
it's like herding cats getting this.
They're going to spell you Patrick Trano if you don't stop.
Okay.
So first, make sure to print your full legal name, which I believe you used in your AmeriCorps application. Second, give the name of the organization that is sponsoring your project, likely the organization where you're serving. Next, put the city and state where you're serving. Put today's date as the date entered on duty, 11/27/2017. List the name of the CNCS official who is administering the oath to you, which is Patrick Triano, and then have your supervisor sign the witness section of the oath. And finally, you'll email a scanned copy of your oath to vmsu@cns.gov with the subject line, oath, your name, PSO blend, 11/27/2017. This must be done within 48 hours.
Okay, that's the only tricky part, is the scanning and knowing where to send it. VISTA Member Support Unit, vmsu@cns.gov, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one other thing, I see a couple of things in the chat here. The supervisor, ideally your supervisor witnessed you taking the oath. If they're not there right now, maybe they had to leave for the day, and someone else at your organization is there and witnessed you taking the oath, they can sign as a witness.
Yep.
They can do that. If your site supervisor's out, That's okay. You just need to have someone in the office who saw you take the oath sign it, and then you will send it.
All right. Preferably somebody older than 5 years old and not in crayon.
True.
Okay. We have given them so much detail at this point.
Well, exactly, Patrick, and now they get to do our favorite thing, which is evaluate this webinar. So before we get to the Q&A.
You're in trouble.
You're in trouble.
You'll see.
You're in trouble.
You're getting like a 1 out of 5.
We've taken a lot of your time. We've taken up your time here listening to Patrick and all of his stuff, and we want to know what you thought. We want to know what you liked, what you want more of. Take on the right-hand side of the screen just a quick poll. We really do read these evaluations. We want to know how we can improve them. We do these for you, and so that's the important thing.
It's like Uber. You know, if you don't give us 5 out of 5,
we don't get to drive anymore.
We don't get to drive anymore, so please.
So just let us know. You do that on the right-hand side of the screen. And now we are going to do a few question and answers. So I'm going to bring back our operator who's going to remind us how to answer questions over the phone.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. We will now begin the question and answer session. If you would like to ask a question, please press *1 and record your first and last name clearly when prompted. Your name is required to introduce your question. To withdraw your question, you may press *2. Once again, if you would like to ask a question, please press *1. One moment, please, for our first question.
Thank you. So as we wait for a question to come in over the phone.
They never come over the phone, you know.
You're going to jinx us right now.
Okay, I'll stop.
A few questions. Once again, Patrick was the one who administered your oath. Make sure to put his name in there, and just someone else at your organization can sign the witness in case your supervisor is not there. So let's take a look at what other questions we have here.
I saw a few questions about fingerprinting and getting your fingerprint kit. Make sure to ask your sponsor. If they haven't received one yet, contact your state office.
That's right. And I know Eric put in the chat a little way to contact the state office. So if you go to your supervisor, they don't have your fingerprint kit, you can contact the state office, which is the abbreviation of the state at cns.gov. So it'd be like for the state of Texas, it'd be tx@cns.gov. Email them and just say, hey, I'm in this PSO and I need a fingerprint kit, and they will get one to you. Toot sweet.
Is that the only way to do it?
You can also email vistafingerprint@cns.gov, and we will contact your state office.
But they can't just go to their supervisor and say, Soup, please get me your kit?
Well, that's the first step. If the supervisor doesn't have it, then they contact the state office.
Not the Soup. They contact the state office. Okay. Be that way.
All right.
There's a person asking where to find the oath sheet.
We'll post that link, which Eric just did because he's awesome, in the chat. So make sure to have that in there. Another question.
Poor Laura, we gave her all those directions and she didn't have the sheet. Do it as we gave her the directions. Laura, what are you doing now?
One other question that came up about fingerprints is, hey, my organization already did a background check on me. Do I have to do the background check with you all? Yes, you do. We do require you to do the fingerprinting through us as well. So, yeah.
It's because our rubric for adjudication, now there's a wonky phrase. It's because how we measure your eligibility to serve could be very different from the criteria your organization applies. So really, it's to your benefit that we do it separate and apart. That's right. Patrick's last name is Triano. Sounds like train, but it's Triano, T-R-I-A-N-O.
Let's take a look here. Let me go to the phone really quickly. Is there anyone who's asked a question?
Ernest is going to say, no, there are no people waiting.
We do have a few questions.
Yes, I knew it.
I'm so sorry, Ernest.
Yes, sir, no problem. We have Miss Betty Felkin. Your line is now open.
Hi there.
Hi, Betty.
Oh, hi, I'm sorry. It's Eddie. Hey.
Oh, Eddie.
I was wondering, so the project sponsor, that would be Mr. Triano, or?
Nope. No?
Can we go back a few slides? I think we need to go back 3 slides or so.
It's back this up. Back. Back more.
So here we go, right here. So the name of the project sponsor, I'm sorry, go forward.
We want to go back to where it actually shows you.
Oh, yeah,
there
we go.
There we go.
The name of your project sponsor is like the organization. So Habitat for Humanity, Alaska Network on Domestic Violence.
The place where you're serving,
yeah.
Eddie. Do you know the name of it?
Yeah, the Turtle-Moon Band of Chippewa Promise Zone?
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly it. Then the city and state where you're actually serving in.
Okay.
And then the Patrick Triano part, that would be me. That goes down under the person who administered the oath.
Okay.
Make sense?
Where is that?
There should be like 5 lines at the top of your oath form.
Okay, yeah.
So you see where it says name of official who administered the oath?
Oh, I don't know. There's nothing like that here, no.
No?
No.
So, Eddie, how about you send me an email? Jessica Birch, you have emails from me, and let me know what you're filling out. I have a feeling you may not be filling out the right oath form.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
So just send me an email and just let me know what's going on.
Yeah, you know what my guess is, Eddie, is that you have your hands on an old oath form.
Okay, I'll definitely send you an email. Thank you.
Of course. Ernest, is there anyone else on the line?
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Our next questions come from Doreen. Your line is now open.
Yes, everything is okay, but other than now, I mistakenly submit the polling without completing. So if you can reopen it for me to submit it.
For the polling, Doreen?
Yes.
You know what? Because we're long past the polling piece, don't worry about it, and you're not going to be penalized in any way for not having taken the poll.
Oh, okay. It did show up to like 5 questions, and
yeah.
By the time I know I clicked submit already, but the remaining did not show up. So.
Okay.
Okay.
By the way, what was your answer? Was it yourself or your community?
Can you say that again, please?
What was your answer in the poll?
Oh, mostly like strongly agree.
Ah, okay. Okay. The other poll. I see what you mean.
Yeah.
As long as you said strongly agree.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to record that. Don't you worry.
And it was satisfactory. So 1 was satisfactory, 2 strongly agree, 3 the same strongly agree, 4.
Oh, it's okay, love. It's okay. Don't worry about it, and I really appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Okay.
Is there any other questions there, Ernest?
Ernest, really? Any more?
At this time, we're showing no further questions.
Aha. There we go.
All right. Another question, a couple of these have come up in the chat. I see a few people have said that they're at home doing this webinar.
Nice.
You need to be at site when doing PSO Blend. It is part of service, and especially for things like the oath, no one's there to sign it at your house.
This in service in their pajamas. I think that's very cool.
VISTA.
Yeah, there we go.
VISTA. So please, for Wednesday's webinar, please be there and be at your site and when participating on the webinars. Just we want to make sure you have everything you need in order to, get credit for being here, get your oath signed, all of that.
Well, in large part, look, the reason that we're asking to be at site is, 1, we want to be sure that you have a workstation and you have a site and you have the support that you need. But the rest of the blend is really based on your interaction with your colleagues at site. So being at home is not always conducive to learning. It's not just Jessica shaking her fist at you. There's a good reason for it. Although she usually just shakes her fist at me without good reason. Any other questions we need to answer?
Ann, did you see any on there? Well, actually, hold on. There is one question about where do I complete the first assignment that is due and what is the due date. So all of your assignments are in your online classroom, and that's where you are currently right now to participate in the blend. You had to log into that classroom. All of your assignments can be found there. The first fieldwork assignments are due the 3rd of December, so that's Sunday. And all of that can be found in the Guide to Entering VISTA service that was posted in the chat and that was emailed to you. So take a look at that to know when the due dates are.
Good for you. Anything else, Ms. Birch?
Let me go back to Ernest. Anything else, Ernest, on the phone?
At this time, we're still showing no further questions.
There you go.
All right. Let's take a look here.
I don't see any questions. I looked.
And do you see any others?
I saw one that says, there are no other questions. Can we stop? That's the other thing that I saw. Who should I send the oath into? That's from Octavia. Or who should send the oath in? It doesn't matter. You can send it or your supervisor can send it as long as it gets to the VMSU at cns.gov.
I saw someone ask, how do I know who my supervisor is?
Ooh, that's a funny question. You could, I suppose, stand up in the middle of your office and say, yo, soup, and see who answers. But someone is responsible for your supervision and guidance. So whomever greeted you is probably the person to ask that question.
That's right, yeah.
And it's an important question.
It is. It's very important. Also, you know, I always tell this to members, you know, whoever you've been in contact with up until here, say, hey, I'm a VISTA supervisor. Are you them? Like, yeah, find out. But they should hopefully be someone at the site will know who your supervisor is.
Yeah, yeah. And thanks for raising the question. It's one of the reasons why we have this webinar, is to establish some of the ground rules and expectations. And your having a supervisor to support you and coach you is maybe the most important aspect of our agreement with the project.
And another great question here. Emily says, can I complete my assignments before Sunday, December 3rd?
Smarty pants.
The answer to that is yes, Emily. We highly encourage you to get your assignments completed as soon as possible. Don't wait until the end. Get them done now, and it'll just be easier for you.
Yeah.
One more time, I'm going to check with Ernest. Ernest, are there any questions over the phone?
No, ma'am. At this time, we're still showing no questions.
All right. Well, then we're going to leave you. We're right at 4:30. Thank you all. We're going to see you all back on Wednesday. I am going to ask Patrick to read in his best Lyndon Johnson voice.
My Lyndon Baines Johnson.
Exactly. Please read.
My fellow Americans, on your idealism and on your success rests much of our hope for the final elimination of poverty in our American life. And in all seriousness, the more I know about Lyndon Baines Johnson, the more I love the man. And it's a great program. That's a privilege for me to serve, and I hope you find that it's fulfilling, if not a privilege, for you to serve as well. Thank you for joining us. And please, let's all keep in touch. We have a whole year in front of us, and we are here to serve you. So with that, let me say goodbye and thank you, Jessica, and
bye, guys. We'll see you on Wednesday.
Bye.
Thank you all, and goodbye.